Welcome to Crushgasm, the podcast that's dedicated to the highs and lows of crushes. But this month, the crushing is getting spooky because we're crushing on all things horror, from movies to books and a few things in between. And we're here with the woman who just keeps sipping, Amanda Kohlhofer, a friendship bracelet making Oklahoma girl who you can hear on a number of podcasts, who's here to talk about a horror staple that's close to her heart, and that's The Final Girl. Amanda, how are you?
I am great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. This is going to close out. I think it was a perfect way to wrap up Spooky Month with a Final Girl homage.
I
So I'm
agree.
excited. So
I
before
agree.
we get into all the girl power at hand, can you tell the people where they can find you on the Sip List, Crime Rewind, Literature Reapers? You have so much going on.
Yeah, I really do. So I host the Sip List. That's the OG podcast where I do top 5 lists and have different guests on, some repeating guests and some new guests. So that's always fun. New episodes every Thursday. And then I co-host Crime Rewind with Shanna, where we talk about cold cases and try to bring new light to those. There's so many unsolved cases that people don't even know about. And, it's just heartbreaking. So and then also with Casey and Shanna, we have Literature Reapers and An Evening at the Movies, a book and movie review podcast. So lots to check out if you're interested in those things.
See, I told y'all she has a lot going on.
Plus drafts with you guys on Tuesday.
And we drafted. So the reason I wanted you on this episode is because your favorite movie features the final girl, and that's Jamie Lee Curtis's Laurie Strode in Halloween. Was this the type of movie you watched and just instantly knew, yeah, this is not one I'll be forgetting anytime soon?
Yeah, definitely. I think what really plays into it is that I saw it when I was 5 years old. It's the first horror movie I remember watching. I'm a Gen Xer and our parents did not monitor what we watched on TV. So it terrified me. But as I grew older, I've seen it so many times. It's just, yeah, it's a real thing that could happen if we just stick to the first one. And, as a woman, it's terrifying, but also, inspiring to see her make it.
Mm-hmm. So again, Laurie definitely helped set the bar and laid a foundation for what was to come in horror. As someone who has seen way more horror movies than I have, for sure, are there times where you're watching these new ones and you can see her influence in a character?
Yeah, definitely. I think, everybody considers Jamie Lee to be the original Final Girl. I think there's arguments to be made for Black Christmas. Oh, I cannot remember her name. Sally, I think. But I think a lot of the movies they base it off, the stereotype that John Carpenter wasn't even trying to create of you've got to be innocent, you got to be a virgin, you got to be this and that and follow all these rules. And so many movies like piggybacked off what they did with Jamie Lee in Halloween.
Mm-hmm. And for me, the idea of the final girl has this like air of feminism to it, and this is definitely like a very girl power thing. And I know you're someone who is a proud feminist yourself. Do you think that stems from watching a strong female character like Laurie so young? You were only 5 years old. Do you think, like, looking in hindsight, that like influenced you?
I think it probably did. I think I also get motivated by, there's so many horror movies where women are treated terribly and it's violence just for violence sake. But when you get that, feminist side of it, of the women being powerful and strong and taking care of themselves, it's like, okay, I could do that. If something bad happened to me, I could take care of myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they definitely give you this like, well, I mean, life can get pretty harder than it is right now, but if they can do it, I could do it too. I can make it through the grocery store today.
Right.
Because sometimes it be like that.
Yeah.
Have you ever watched that Movies That Made Us on Netflix?
Yes.
Okay, so like I've seen all of them, and sometimes I've never seen the movie, but I'm so enthralled by like the backstory of it. One of them being like Die Hard. I've never seen that movie. Another one, Nightmare on Elm Street, but I love the making of it. But I remember one of them, it was like the people behind it. I remember them saying, I think it was for Nightmare, correct me if I'm wrong, but they were inspired to have a survivor be a woman because I think it was like a girl in their life, like a cousin or maybe a little sister or daughter. They were like questioned why in horror movies the girls always fell. So, in hindsight, really, it does make you wonder, like, if that little girl never questioned it, what would the like future of horror movies be like? Yeah.
Right. That's amazing. I feel like I've heard that, but I cannot tell you which movie it is.
I want to say it was Nightmare on Elm Street just because I can like
Probably.
see like the fight them driving off in the episode in the scene or something like that. But it's been a
Hmm.
while. That definitely is a series that Netflix needs to hurry up and bring back.
Yes. And Nightmare's an interesting one because not only is it the final girl trope, but it's a girl who isn't being believed. And that's a thing I think in this case it's about a nightmare man that we know that can't be real, but I think the women not being believed about things that are happening to them is a really big thing for us. And so to have Nancy power through that and just be like, I know this is real and nobody believes me, I'll take care of it myself.
Going back to the feminism, the girl power, before the Spice Girls came on the scene, the horror girls were holding it down. But the actual term final girl, I didn't know. It seems like it's something that's just like existed forever, but it was actually coined back in 1992, for those that don't know, by author Carol J. Clover in her book Men, Women, and Chainsaws, which explored horror from the 70s and 80s. And she noted in that, like in her research, it seemed like, quote, it was necessary for the surviving character to be female because they must experience abject terror because, quote, the terror has a purpose in that the female, if she survives, is purged of undesirable characteristics such as relentlessness, pursuit of personal pleasure. So we just talked about like the feminism of Final Girls, but I don't know. Maybe the basis of the Final Girl from like with male audiences was quite the opposite when like this started in the 70s and 80s. Do you think that played into it? Maybe because of the male. I know male is like people think a lot of men like horror, so I don't know.
Yeah.
There's like a balance there. Maybe they wanted to see that virginal thing you mentioned.
Well, I absolutely think that's why, because if you watch any interviews or read anything about Halloween and John Carpenter, that's kind of where that whole we hear in Scream, the rules. That was pretty much all based off of Halloween because it's like you're watching this movie that's a full set of if you're, a bad girl, you die. If you're a quote unquote slut, you die. If you don't follow the rules and you're not this motherly, take care of the children, good girl. And so it's, basically a cautionary tale. And that's not what he intended at all. But people took that and ran with it. And now we have, the rules, which finally I think people are getting away from it. I'm glad.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, we have that whole purged of innocence because that's what I've always found weird in horror. Like, you mentioned the rules and Scream goes over them. I think they're parodied in Scary Movie as well. I think she had that big, like, what are those things? The
chastity belt.
Yeah. So there's that idea of the virgin being the survivor and the promiscuous girl getting off. And you've noticed, like, do you think the change has to do more with like the times changing or just the behind the scenes, more females in the writer's room and the producers?
I think it's both. I think, society is moving away from or has been moving away from the Christian idealism that has shaped much of what we consume. So, women are meant to be housewives, women are meant to be virgins till they're married, like, all that stuff we just talked about. I was raised thinking that stuff was true, and not because my parents like ingrained it into me. It's because that's what society told me. And I think we're moving away from that. And yes, I think more women moving into the horror genre behind the scenes is helping that as well.
And who are some of your favorite Final Girls? Well, side note.
I mean, yeah, besides Lori, definitely Sydney. I think Sydney Prescott, I think she's kind of the first final girl that's really like, I'm going to take back my independence. I'm not going to let a man's unhinged anger, control my life. And she continues to fight back and continues to fight back. Nancy in Nightmare on Elm Street, for sure. Oh, Jenny from Friday the 13th Part 2. I really like her because she was one, that wasn't a virgin and she lived, So, you see that she has sex with her boyfriend. They don't show it, but it's implied. So I thought that was important in the 80s that they show, a final girl who wasn't virginal. So I like her. And she was cool. So
Was she like Buffy, cool, like dressing cool too?
no, well, I mean, she was dressed like an 80s camp counselor, but she was just funny. She had a strong sense of humor. She was a psychology major, so she was smart. You know, she didn't make as many stupid mistakes as Laurie Strode did. I mean, I love Laurie. Halloween's my favorite movie, but if that girl hadn't been a virgin, she would have died. She was dumb.
She wasn't too bright, was not the brightest crazy girl.
There's this interview in one of the Halloween documentaries I've watched where they're talking about a bunch of them went to go watch it in the theater to see how audiences reacted. And so she was talking about all these people are just screaming, "You idiot! Stop throwing the knife away! Don't go in there! What are you doing?"
She's like, "Oh, sad."
They told me to.
Yeah, I know. It's like she didn't have a choice. It's in the script. You know, it's not a documentary. Exactly. Gotta go the way the page was written. So I do think that in the end, because it's kind of like in any type of media, when you see yourself, you want to be involved more in it. Like when I would go to like punk shows, if I saw someone black on stage, it made me want to like the band a little more. I think the same could be said with Final Girls and like their perseverance and everything. You see that in the movie, it's going to drive more women to watch these movies. Do you think that's why we see more and more women involving themselves in the horror genre?
Yeah, I think so. And I also think it is to I think more women involvement has to do with turning around a lot of the tropes and a lot of the, horror gets a bad rap because there's so much violence against women. And I agree with that, but I also think that there's so much more feminism in horror movies than we realize. It just gets bogged down by the nudity and the violence and the way women are treated. And so I think women moving into it is going to change that, where you still have, because there has to be the violence, there has to be that element of fear. If you're not invested in the character, you're not going to care what happens to them. So, it sucks, but I think women are kind of helping turn that on its head a little and still make it that way, but where it's more consumable for everybody. Like, it's not as drastic.
I think a recent one I really liked was that woman in Ready or Not. I thought that was like a fantastic movie. I mean, horror is not something I'll usually dive into, but that one had Adam Brody, and I'll watch anything Adam Brody is in except for Shazam. And
Except you already watched that, so
not Shazam. No, I've never seen Shazam. I watched that Black Adam movie.
Okay,
that was a mistake. So now I will not. It was so bad.
Do you mean the original Shazam or the newer one?
The newer one with the guy with the what's his name?
I haven't seen that, but I liked the original. I thought it was really cute, and I loved the, shelter kids being involved in all of it. So
it just felt like, I don't know, DC either goes like really dark, literally you can't see the screen, or it feels like a Disney Channel original movie, but not one of the good ones. And that's what Shazam felt like when I saw the trailer. So I was like, I mean, you got, like, once you watch The Boys, you can't go back to DC or Marvel. It just kicks them out of the, just like, it ruins everything for you.
I still need to check that out.
Oh, you're gonna love it. And Gen V, it's not as, I mean, I love Homelander, so I have a bias, but it's starting out pretty good. Pretty good.
Okay.
So we're talking about Final Girls in film, but you do co-host Literature Reaper. So I wanted to ask if you have read any good books that feature like a final girl type character.
Yeah. So there's a newer book by Grady Hendrix called The Final Girl Support Group. And this one's really fun because it is, if you grew up watching horror movies and you've seen Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Halloween, Scream, this book is basically if those things happened in real life and the final girls from each of those actual real life scenarios got together and had a support group. Because in real life, they're, everybody's obsessed with them because this stuff really happened, and then they start getting picked off. But it's really cute and quirky with the way it really ties into horror films. I don't know how he got licensed to do all that, except that he changed the names.
Oh, okay.
But other than that, you can definitely tell which girl belongs to which franchise, so it's interesting. Another one that I don't think, she definitely doesn't get a final girl rap, and I think that she should, so I'm always going to be like, justice for her, is Wendy Torrance. And in the movie so much, they made her kind of whiny and unlikable and whatever, but still she powers through. But in the book, when you read the book and the actual like just carnage that she survived, like he almost killed her in the book, and it's very detailed in like all the injuries she sustains, and she still manages to save her kid and get them out of there, and all while having to deal with her husband who she loves, who she realizes is no longer her husband, and she's got to take care of it. So Wendy needs more respect.
Respect for Wendy, hashtag.
Yes.
So when Shanna was on, we were talking horror movies, but we also got into books as well. And she noted how she liked like Lois Duncan growing up. I was also a big fan of hers. Did you read any of her books, or Anne Rice?
Anne Rice, I did, yeah. A little bit. I didn't really get into that until I was more into adulthood. So yeah, I didn't really read a lot of horror or even like thrillers, as I was always reading, I mean, as sad as this is, I was always reading classics or like Sweet Valley High.
Oh, you can't go wrong with Sweet
Or
Valley
like
High.
Judy Blume. Yeah. I mean, I still have some Sweet Valley High books.
Don't get rid of them. You'll regret it.
I'm not.
You will spend the rest of your life trying to get them back.
Yes. I take that back because I was obsessed with Fear Street, and I still own like 20 Fear Street books. So I did read that, but those mostly read like, little movies and, have the same, it's the same story every time, just with different details, but they were still fun. So I didn't mind.
I mean,
that's a lot of Fear Street.
R.L. Stein's bread and butter is kind of, a pattern once you get used to it. But you can't beat those covers on the Fear Street, Goosebumps. I mean, even Sweet Valley High, the covers of like that era of books. I mean, that's art.
Yeah, I agree. Looking at the Sweet Valley High ones now, I'm like, oh my gosh, why did I think this was so cool? But I mean, they're still pretty awesome. So
I mean, they were cool. I didn't read those ones. I watched the show. I was like a little too young to have read them, but I was into the show. I was a Babysitter's Club girl.
And I was too old for the show. And honestly, I didn't really read Babysitter's Club because instead of that, I was reading that horse book series. And now I can't remember what it's called.
Oh, horse book.
Oh my gosh. It had a girl named Stevie. Oh my gosh, the Saddle Club.
Yes. Okay.
So I was not a Babysitter's Club girl. I was a Sweet Valley High girl and a Saddle Club girl. And Fear Street. It makes sense of that.
Well, before Goosebumps and Babysitter's Club, I was an American Girl. And then I would get them from the library, but my and you all of a sudden out of nowhere get the catalog that has the dolls and the clothes. But I was like too poor to get anything in that. And then also I was like very large child, so I was not fitting in anything. They needed to make like adult sizes for my big old butt. So I was just like, it was my dream. So when they finally built the American Girl doll store in LA at the Grove, I went and I was like, they're like $95 for a plain doll. I was like, I still can't get one. Damn it.
I bought one for my daughter. And I remember when I started dating my husband, his sister, their family has a lot of money. And their daughter's exactly my daughter's age. They're apart by like 2 days. And she had like 6 American Girl dolls. And Abby was just like, oh my God. And I was like, that's like 3 months of my paychecks. So
it's an investment. And then like the store has a hospital, which I've always wanted to write the Grey's Anatomy for the American Girl doll hospital.
I actually love that. As expensive as it is, I think that is the most adorable way to get your doll fixed, is to they have a hospital for your baby. Like, it's a little creepy, but
but at the same time, like, remember when your Barbie's head would fall off and you try to squish it back on? And she just looked so sad after that. I've had a couple like that, and it was like, she never got played with again. She was definitely weird.
Yeah. It's like when you popped the legs off and then you try to put them back on and they were never the same.
Did you have siblings?
Oh, yeah.
Did you have brothers that would chew their feet and arms? My brother did.
I actually chewed my Barbie's feet.
Oh, no, you did it to them. You made them monsters.
It was a nervous habit.
Well, my brother would chew their feet off, and then they couldn't have shoes. They could wear the boots, but they couldn't wear the heels anymore.
Oh, yeah. Well, my brother and I had to share toys until I was about 12, and we started having more money. So we would go to like the like Goodwill, and you could buy those little bags of random little toys. Or you could, so he would get like some cars and I'd get like one Barbie, and we'd have to play together and make some kind of story with his little Hot Wheels and my Barbies.
Right? Whatever works. I would use my brother's like Star Wars and Space Jam toys, and they were like my Skipper's boyfriends because they didn't really make Skipper a boyfriend, and she couldn't be with Ken. That was weird.
Yeah. That's creepy.
Yeah. So, the blue monster from Space Jam was the perfect height for Skipper.
Yes, I agree.
So we're going to go back to the screen because in recent years, we've got a cascade of new final girls to add to a growing list. Like I just mentioned, we had Samara Weaving from Ready or Not, Keke Palmer in Nope. Are there any newer or younger actresses in these recent movies that you'd put on that iconic final girl list?
Yeah, I think some of the newer ones that I think are also really good about like kind of being feminist and then powerful. What is her name? Jay from It Follows. I think It Follows is genius because it tackles that you can't have sex trope like right in the face. Maddie from Hush. Hush is a great movie if you haven't seen it. And the girl from, I guess, Cabin in the Woods, probably.
Oh, I love that movie.
And then definitely the as much as this was hard for me to watch and I would never watch it again, the girl from I Spit on Your Grave, the remake, or even the original. I can't really remember. But I Spit on Your Grave is like the best revenge movie. It is not for people with a weak stomach, but, revenge horror is a thing that we're getting more and more of, and that's a really good one.
I've never heard of that genre, revenge horror.
This girl gets attacked and raped and held hostage in her house by multiple guys, and she hunts them down one by one and rips them limb from limb.
Oh my god. Okay.
Yeah.
I think the limb from limb part I can handle. It's the other stuff I couldn't. I can watch
me too.
Yeah, it's like
I skipped that part. I skipped that part in Last House on the Left. Like I don't need to see that.
Like Cabin in the Woods. That one is so good. I really like that movie. And I remember I loved it. And then me and my guy likes it too. And we are like, we want to get it. It was nowhere streaming forever. And then so I could not find it on DVD in any store. And then we finally ordered it. And then what pops up on a streamer like the next week? Cabin in the Woods. I was like, are you serious?
Nice.
This happens every time. It happened with Tommy Boy too. Couldn't find it anywhere streaming. We finally bought it because it's one of our favorite movies. Then there it goes on Netflix. So just think about buying a movie and it'll pop up on streaming the next week.
Of course.
Yeah, that's how it goes. So who is an actress that has yet to be in horror that you'd love to see as a final girl?
Ooh. That's a good question. I wouldn't mind seeing Zendaya as a final girl. Or I know that she's been in Stranger Things, which is kind of horror, but I wouldn't mind seeing Millie Bobby Brown be like a final girl, like a real, like, not the supernatural stuff, but just a real full-on, horror final girl.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's an interesting question. And maybe Aubrey Plaza, just because I think she would be. Aubrey Plaza could have done I Spit on Your Grave, like for real. That would have been amazing.
Well, have you seen Ingrid Goes West?
I haven't.
Well, it's not a horror movie by any means, but it is a very creepy movie that explores kind of the parasocial relationships we have with people on social media. Suggest it's really, I wouldn't watch it again because it was just like one of those cringe. It's a very cringy movie, but suggest if you like Aubrey Plaza.
Okay. Very nice.
And finally, what do you think the genre of horror would be like without the idea and the concept of a final girl?
I mean, I think it's what it was before we got, Black Christmas and Halloween. It was monsters. And, technically we got Psycho, but there's not really a final girl. I think without final girls, we're just going to have, monster movies and outbreak movies and alien movies, if you're not rooting for a character, whether it be a guy or a girl, the final girl is the trope, but it could easily be, a final guy. I feel like if you're not rooting for somebody, then you're not invested in it other than to see the kills, which is why some people watch horror and hey, that's cool. But I watch horror because I enjoy being scared in a controlled environment. That's why I like haunted houses. That's why I like horror, because I know it's not real, even if it could really happen, and I can go back to my regular life. But I also want somebody to root for, and I think without a final girl, you don't really have that.
Okay. So you like haunted houses.
I do, yes.
Oh, I mean, like, yeah, they're not real, so they're not scary. But we went to Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios when they just introduced the Walking Dead maze, I guess they call it.
Ooh,
And
yeah,
my husband made me go in front of him. He used to work there. He used to cast the people, and he was so scared. I was like, how do
that's
you know it's
amazing.
not real? Oh, it was. I think they had a "This Is the End" kind of trippy, like walk through black light, and I think that was the best thing I saw. I
Hmm,
wish I could go. I think they have Stranger Things now. I wish
they
like
do.
I
And
wish I could be there for
Abby is
that.
driving me crazy about that. We went last year, so they did, and they did a Halloween haunted house, and it was the original Myers house from the original movie, and it
Oh,
was
nice.
we. So this is what I will say for anybody who ever wants to go to Halloween Horror Nights. If you're gonna go, we went on a weeknight. We went on Wednesday, but it was about a week and a half before Halloween.
Ooh.
If you're gonna go at all, get the VIP passes. We stood in line for
Mm-hmm.
2.5 hours for like a 4 minute haunted house. And after that, we were just done. Like, we're not gonna stand for another 2.5 hours for another haunted house. Like, it just sucked. But it was really good. It was really scary.
Yeah, definitely. I had like a press pass, and
Yeah.
even for the with the press pass for The Walking Dead, I think it was about an hour or so waiting. So I was like, oh my God. But yeah, definitely get that VIP. It is worth it because those lines
Yeah.
get insane. I don't know how people go like a
I,
commoner. I don't know how a commoner could do
right.
it.
And depending on how much money you want to spend, because we decided if we ever go again, and we would probably do it once, we would do this. It's, I don't know what it's called, but it's like a extra VIP where it's basically you get a butler. So
Oh,
you
nice.
get a person who takes you around, and they'll even drive you around on a golf cart if you don't want to walk the whole time. And there's like private, places where you can go have drinks or whatever. But they take you right up to the front of the line at every single house, and you don't have to wait. And
Ooh.
we looked at it, and it would have cost about, for three of us, it would have cost about $3,000 to do that, 3,500 maybe. So it's not cheap. But if you're a horror person and you want to go and you really want to experience everything, that's the only way you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Because you have to get there, like, I mean, it's not open all day. It's Halloween Horror
no, it's
Night. So
not.
it's like, but I will say it's the best one because I've gone to Not Scary Farm and that felt like the Dollar Tree version of Universal Studios. I was like, what is this? What is this? Like, there's no mist. You could see people coming. Like, please stop. Like, this is dumb. Never do that. Don't even spring for a regular ticket for Not Scary Farm. But now, now we've reached the portion of the spooky Wheel of Death questions. All right.
Okay.
And we have 6 of them to keep with a spooky theme. Six, six.
Okay.
So the first one is, what is the horror movie with the best score?
I mean, I'm going to say Psycho or Halloween. I'm going to tie them.
What would you, if there was a horror movie based on your biggest fear, what would that horror movie be about?
Spiders or being suffocated.
So you don't like arachnophobia?
Oh, no. No, no, no. Not at all.
What's the one with David Arquette, Eight-Legged Freaks?
Yeah. Yeah.
I can like see it in Blockbuster, but I didn't
Yeah.
rent it because I don't mind bugs. I don't like lots of bugs at a time. Like I don't like hordes of bugs. Like I'm like, ugh. Like one bug, I'm like, go away. But hordes of them, I'm like, ew. Like even ants. Like I hate like with all of
Oh,
them
yeah.
crawling on each other. It's so gross. Next question. Who is your favorite horror movie villain?
I know it's easy, but I'm going to say Michael Myers. He walks slow, doesn't talk, never gives up, always chasing the same girl for 45 years now. I dig it.
He's in the friend zone. Sounds like
Yeah.
or give him a chance. Give him a chance. Okay, so now we have a fuck, marry, kill.
Okay.
Might be easy. Your favorites in there. So Michael Myers, Jason, and Freddy Krueger.
Ooh. Fuck Michael, because the stamina on that man, I just know he's got to be great. Um, kill Jason, because who cares? And marry Freddy, because even after the attraction is gone, he's going to make me laugh.
True.
And that's the most important thing.
I like, do you feel like Jason is kind of like the like low tier of like these horror icons? I never hear people loving him as much.
He's the redheaded stepchild.
Oh, that's why he's so mad. That's why he's going after everybody.
Probably.
Okay, so who is a villain from another movie that's not horror that could be like a villain in a horror movie though?
Ooh. I mean, I think Snape. Who's the guy from Star Wars? The Sith Lord or whatever his name is. That guy.
The red and black one?
The main bad guy in
Darth
Star
Vader?
Wars. Not Vader, the guy that's over him.
Count Dooku, the guy who looks like a ball sack.
Yes.
Okay, I know ball sack. I don't know his name. But
I thought he was just the Sith Lord, but I don't know. But that guy definitely, he's freaking scary.
Yeah, Lord Ballsack, we'll call him.
Yeah, Lord Ballsack.
I watch all these things, but I don't retain like a lot of it. I like it, but
yeah, when it comes to Star Wars, there's too much information, so I don't even really try.
Yeah, my boss right now is a big Star Wars fan, and he'll like talk to me about it, and he's like watched everything from the cartoons to the movies, and he's like,
yeah,
and I'm like, yeah, Ahsoka's cool. I'm like, yeah, the robots. He's like droid. I'm like,
yeah,
like sorry,
don't mess that up.
I know. I was like, sorry, fire me. And the last one is, what is a horror movie that you feel deserved Oscar recognition?
Ooh, I mean, Halloween. And I know it was simple and horror didn't get recognized, but and I know I go on about Halloween, but the simplicity of it is what makes it so scary and great. I think Get Out should have won some stuff, although I am iffy on whether or not Get Out is horror. I understand why it's scary for Black people, because but I feel like it deserved, it got a nomination, so that's good. But
it won. He won best screenplay.
Oh, okay, so it did win something. Okay, that's good. There's probably a lot I just can't think of.
I remember a lot of people being upset that Toni Collette didn't get nominated for Hereditary.
Hereditary, I agree, actually. And Hereditary is that's another new like influx of horror, is the family dynamic and especially the motherhood thing, like the Babadook. And you can go back to like Rosemary's Baby and The Omen to get that stuff too, but like the Babadook and Hereditary is like, you're really getting to see what women are capable of. And yeah, she should have gotten nominated for that. She was fantastic.
I didn't get it. It's when like sometimes A24 is a little too smart for me.
It's weird. It can be very weird, but I just her performance, that dinner table scene alone is just like, come on.
I was like, oh, I mean, it was scary, but I hated that red herring of like, you thought the little girl was gonna be in it more, and then she was not.
Yeah.
I was like, oh. I remember being in the theater like, what the fuck?
I could not. There's so many, like, there's shocking death scenes. We actually just talked about this in the SIP list because we did our favorite kills. And I actually had that little girl, what's her name? Charlie, I think. And somebody else picked it. It was just so shocking because you didn't expect it. And I think, a lot of times in horror, you're like, oh, okay, I can see that something is going to happen and you're ready for the jump scare. But that was one you weren't ready for. And I think those are the better scares, because jump scares still get me even when I'm ready for them, so that's fine. But when it's out of nowhere like that, and what the fuck just happened? Like, yes.
I'm trying to think. I feel like there was one recently like that, but yeah, it's hard. Yeah, I'm really like I don't like when I know what's coming, so that was a good scene in that regard, because like there's some movies where like I know the whole plot as soon as I walked in.
Yeah, exactly.
But they're still good. There's a lot of movies like that. But anyway, so we're at the end, final girl, and you made it. You made it. You're like Dre and Harvey. They did not die in the beginning of the interview because they were Black. They made
Thank
it to the
God.
End. They made it to the end, and you're our final girl. So can you remind people where they can find you and all your shows online?
Yes, definitely. And I did just want to say real quick a recommendation. If you guys like this topic and like kind of the other stuff Kendra's been talking about this month, check out the book, The Science of Women in Horror. It's by our friends Meg Halfdahl and Kelly Florence. They have a whole series of the science of, and basically they talk about horror movies and things from horror movies and like the science behind it and the rationale behind it. And their Women in Horror book is really, really good with lots of information. So find the Sip List everywhere you get your podcasts and at thesiplistpod.com. And then that show, along with all the others, are at our network site, idnmtrpodcastnetwork.com. So definitely check everything out. The network has something for everyone. And if you like top 5 lists, check out the Sip List and all the other ones. We have fun.
All right, Amanda, thank you for taking the time to talk to me about Final Girls today. And everyone, you can find all that information below. And until next time, as always, keep crushing it. Crushgasm is part of the I Did Not Make These Rankings podcast network, alongside some other pretty cool shows, including An Evening at the Movies, Crime, Rewind, Literature Reapers, Love is Black, Masturbators, Men Are the Prize, and The Sip List. You can find all of us and more over at idnmtrpodcastnetwork.com.